listen closely, because a major atmospheric shift is unfolding, one that will reignite significant winter weather for millions of people across the United States. As we step into 2026, the atmosphere is rapidly reorganizing into a more aggressive and volatile configuration, one that favors larger, more powerful storm systems. This evolving pattern opens the door to heavy snowfall, widespread disruptions, and renewed severe weather across vast portions of the country. But before this broader pattern fully locks in, a potentially historic snow event is already underway. A major winter storm is targeting the Great Lakes and the Northeast, where select locations could see 20 to 50 inches of snow. This isn't just typical snowfall. This is being driven by intense, persistent lake-effect snow bands that are expected to stall in place and refuse to budge. In fact, areas just outside Syracuse, New York could see snow totals exceeding 50 inches within the next 40 hours. Let that sink in: over 4 feet of snow in less than 2 days. That's the kind of accumulation that shuts down entire communities, paralyzes infrastructure, and creates historic conditions people talk about for decades. This is a headline-making, once-in-a-generation snowstorm. Once this event finally winds down, the atmosphere doesn't calm down, it ramps up. The jet stream is forecast to transition into a meridional flow pattern next week, keeping the overall setup unstable, energetic, and highly active. That configuration supports the return of winter storms and severe weather threats for millions of us. We move through much of next week and beyond. So buckle up, because we're about to break down everything you need to know about the pattern shift that will define the opening chapter of 2026. Let's start with the jet stream, because it will be the primary driver of U.S. weather over the next 7 days. Understanding this feature is absolutely essential to understanding what lies ahead. And if you want a specific forecast for your city or region, drop it in the comments pile. Respond individually as time allows. If you find this breakdown helpful, a like and subscription would be greatly appreciated. Right now, the jet stream is angled sharply out of the northwest, cutting across the Ohio Valley, Midwest, and Northeast. This configuration is actively funneling Arctic air southward. Just last night, intense snow squalls ripped through Ohio, Pennsylvania, and New York, producing near-zero visibility, the kind of whiteout conditions where visibility collapses in seconds and travel becomes instantly dangerous. After those squalls moved through, they left behind a deep reservoir of Arctic air. And it is bitterly cold across much of the Great Lakes region. Unfortunately, this setup isn't going anywhere immediately. As long as the jet stream maintains this northwest orientation, cold air will remain locked in place from North Dakota all the way to Maine. Meanwhile, a high-pressure system is beginning to build across the southern plains. It won't reach peak strength until Sunday or Monday, but over the next few days, it will steadily intensify. This will allow warmer and drier air to expand across the west coast and much of the Great Plains. That ridge won't strengthen all at once, though. A small shortwave disturbance embedded in Pacific energy will move through, triggering periods of heavy rain and isolated severe storms across the southeast late Friday into Saturday. If you're in the southeast, stay alert. While this doesn't look like a major outbreak, damaging winds and an isolated tornado risk cannot be ruled out, especially across parts of Florida, Georgia, and South Carolina. Winter systems with moisture and instability always demand close monitoring. The real transformation begins Sunday into Monday. That's when the pattern fundamentally shifts. A powerful high-pressure system will rapidly strengthen over the Great Plains, potentially putting record-breaking warmth on the table across portions of the Central Plains, Midwest, and Mississippi Valley early next week. At the same time, the polar jet stream lifts far north, while deep troughing develops along the west coast. That setup is a classic recipe for large, impactful storm systems, and the west coast will take the first hit on Sunday and Monday. Once those storms move inland, the action spreads east. As these systems cross the Rocky Mountains, they will begin impacting the Great Plains, Midwest, Ohio Valley, and eventually the East Coast. By the middle of next week, the pattern becomes fully active, with multiple storm systems likely during the first half of January. This isn't a one-off event. This is the atmosphere waking up. Things are about to get busy and very interesting very quickly. We're going to start seeing some major storm systems emerge within about a week, possibly even sooner for some areas. And there's also a truly extreme snow event unfolding right now that deserves a much closer look. One of the dominant storylines over the next 7 days revolves around temperatures. Because right now we're dealing with well below average readings stretching from North Dakota through the Northeast. Even Florida is running colder than normal. You might be wondering why I'm wearing a hoodie. Well, it's 35 degrees in Florida, which is something we almost never experience. I'm genuinely cold right now. And just to clarify, the weather is not responsible for my hair doing whatever this is. That's on me. Meanwhile, across the Great Plains and the West Coast, temperatures are currently above average. As we head into Friday and Saturday, heat begins to build along the Gulf Coast and into the southeast, bringing a return to warmer conditions there, while cold air stubbornly hangs on across the northeast. By Monday and Tuesday, the entire temperature pattern across the United States flips dramatically. We'll be talking about the potential for record-breaking warmth returning to parts of North Dakota, South Dakota, and the Texas Panhandle. By Tuesday, the warmth expands further across the Great Plains and Midwest. In Nebraska, some locations could run 35 degrees above normal, which is exceptionally warm for this time of year. Then look ahead to Wednesday and Thursdays, essentially the same story, just covering a much larger portion of the country. Nearly everything east of the Rockies is projected to run well above average. If you're in California, Oregon, or Washington, you'll finally catch a break from the warmth as cooler air moves in after more than a week of above normal temperatures. Relief is coming out west if you've been waiting for it. Now, obviously, this warm pattern doesn't feel very wintry. But what will feel wintry is what comes after it. Because when we see a stretch of warmth like this, it almost always sets the stage for a significant Arctic backlash. I strongly suspect we'll see an Arctic blast sometime around the middle of January, which would usher in a much more favorable setup for snow and ice. Ice storms, in particular, have been largely absent so far this season, and I think our first truly impactful ice events could emerge around mid-month. For perspective, these are today's high temperatures. Notice how cold it remains across the Midwest and Northeast, while the southern plains are quite warm, with 70s showing up across Texas. Florida, meanwhile, is only in the 60s, which is actually chilly by local standards. But as we head into early next week, temperatures skyrocket. By Monday, parts of South Dakota could reach the low 60s, with areas near Springfield, Illinois approaching the mid-50s. That is an impressive warm dash. Now let's talk about the insane snowfall totals currently unfolding. The HRRR model is indicating a very narrow, acute scale zone just outside of Syracuse that could see widespread 40 to 50 inches of snow. And that's within the next 48 hours, with most of it falling in roughly a 36-hour window. This is classic Lake Ontario lake effect madness. This will be a significant, high-impact snow event for areas just north of Syracuse and south of Watertown. But here's what makes it truly remarkable. Travel just 10 miles north toward Watertown, and you could see almost no snow at all. We're talking about an incredible gradient. We're within 10 to 20 miles. Snowfall ranges from 0 inches to nearly 4 feet. That level of precision is exactly what makes lake effect snow bands so dangerous. You can literally drive from clear skies into a total whiteout in minutes. Once this snow event wraps up on Saturday, attention shifts south. A storm system moving across the southeast will introduce a low-end tornado risk for parts of Florida, Alabama, Georgia, and Mississippi. Overall, the threat remains limited, with the Storm Prediction Center outlining only a marginal risk. Future radar shows scattered showers during the morning, with storms intensifying after lunchtime, particularly across Georgia. The environment isn't ideal for tornado development, but it's just favorable enough that a few tornadoes could spin up, mainly between 2 p.m. and 8 p.m. After sunset, storms will likely organize into a linear system across Florida, Georgia, and South Carolina, bringing a localized, damaging wind threat before weakening overnight into Sunday morning. Once this system clears the southeast, conditions dry out across much of the Great Plains on Sunday. A weak clipper system may move through late Sunday night into early Monday across the Midwest, producing light to moderate snowfall, generally equating to 2 inches from Wisconsin into Pennsylvania and New York. On Monday and Tuesday, the West Coast continues to see scattered rain and high-elevation snow showers. By Tuesday, one system attempts to move into the upper Midwest, but snowfall looks minor at best, and guidance, especially the GFS, has been trending weaker with this feature. Thank you guys, see you next video.